The Song of Primigenia, Book 1, The Tyrant of Fire Arc, The Dark One Saga. Dedication. To my best friend Joe, who endured this story at its roughest. To my mother, who gave me a love of books and a desire to write. Thank you, Mom. To my brothers, who played with me so many games. Thank you for helping me grow both my imagination and storytelling. To my friend Stephanie, who is like an older sister to me, for the encouragement in reading through my story. To my friend Derek, who we lost in 2020 to cancer, your loss made me want to follow my dreams. I have immortalized you in these pages, brother. Rest well. Key. Chrysonians, children of fire, the residents of the Crimson Dale. Their naming scheme is Norse, known for their blazing red eyes that crackle like fire. Their patron is Ragnus the Fire Lion. Azurians, children of air, the residents of the Azure Highlands. Their naming scheme is Japanese, known for their sapphire eyes like the sky. Patron is Voxus the Air Eagle. Terrians, children of earth, the residents of the Terra Plains. Their naming scheme is German, known for their honey golden eyes. Patron is Limu the Earth Deer. Esmeraldians, children of water, the residents of the Emerald Coast and all the waterways of Phoenix. Their naming scheme is Greek, known for their emerald green eyes. Patron is Oria the water dolphin. Chapter 1. Ken, a morning introduction. The sound of a grindstone rang out over the treetops as the sun began to rise over the small homestead and smithy. The smithy stood in a clearing of the Crimson Dale. The light fell in gold and pink waves, reflecting off the grass. Soon the air died and left an echo in the air. Ken pushed his already sweat-drenched, sandy-brown hair from his eyes as he inspected the sword. Not quite satisfied, he turned back to the stone once more. Though well-practiced, Ken's mind did not wander for even a second as he worked on his beloved partner. He smiled at the nostalgia of when he first set to forging his sword all those years ago washed over him. After the grindstone, a good polish was in order, which was less critical but just as important. Moments like this were bliss for the young swordsman. Footsteps sounded behind him. He turned to find his father, Heath, a tall, well-built man. He had brilliant orange hair and bright eyes that glowed like burning flames. This was a mark of an old blessing placed on their people. The man looked every inch the blacksmith that he was. He smiled as he watched his father approach. "Father," Ken greeted the older man, whom beamed at his only son. "Ken, I didn't expect to find you working this morning." His father gave him a knowing wink. "Here I thought you would be enjoying your new freedom. It's such a lovely day. I suppose I owe Alistair some fish, seeing as he bet you would be working." Ken chuckled, surprised that his father would bet against him working in the forge. "I am no longer an apprentice smith to you or master student, but I still need to maintain my weapon." "I doubt that fine beauty needs any maintenance so soon," he said with the certainty of an expert. "More like you aren't used to your new freedom yet." "Can you blame me?" The youth finished polishing the sword and inspected it. I spent most of my days here or training for the past 8 years. It will take some adjusting." "Yet you still had time to cause trouble with little Nami," Heath quipped, causing him to blush. He recently turned 18, and even a mention of his beloved made his heart race. Heath let his son flounder for a moment, and then continued, I had the same problem when my father released me at 18. Hands so used to work do not like to be idle. But you will only feel this today. Tomorrow you are off on the ordeal." Ken nodded, anticipation eating in his gut. He was excited for the thought of this coming journey, a chance to test the skills he had honed for years. "It sometimes felt like this day would never come," he admitted. His father grinned in response and shook his head. "Oh, my son, how I envy youth and their perception of time. For me, the years have flown by. Why, it feels like yesterday I handed you a hammer for the first time. I am so proud of you, Ken." Heath offered his hand to take the sword, and Ken handed the treasured weapon over to his father. Ken watched his father, testing the balance, the weight, and checking the edge. He must have been satisfied because the smith raised the sword and kissed the flat of it, an old smith's blessing. "You look after my sword now, pretty one," he addressed the blade. "You've made a finer blade than any I could have forged." Ken swelled with pride at his father's words. "I can't seem to find the right name for her. Nami says it's her other half, but it doesn't feel right to name it after her." He chuckled and handed the sword back to his son, his fiery eyes filled with warmth. Aye, but lasses tend not to like it when you name a weapon after them for some reason. Ken shrugged in mock confusion. What? They don't? Why ever not? Heath's eyes twinkled with mirth and mischief. No man can ever understand the depths of a woman's mind, Ken. The trick is to be good enough at pretending so they never notice. Never forget that, and you will have a happily married life someday. Yes, father, the young man agreed. He knew his parents had a loving relationship, and it warmed his heart to see them together. Good lad, the smith patted his son on the back as he returned his blade to its scabbard. So, what else do you have planned for your last day on the homestead? Ken shrugged, unsure how to respond. Well, I'm going to see Mum, and then I'll head out to the usual meeting spot. Heath nodded and winked at his son. Of course. Wouldn't want to keep your young lady waiting. She's a crack shot. Ken shuddered in memory. Don't remind me. I don't need a repeat of the Harvest Festival. No, I should think not. The Smith's eyes were radiating mirth. Ken could still see it all. Nami had been very cross with him after being late. The earful she had given him after that still made him feel guilty. Anyways, Ken said, I'll take my leave now. He hugged his father, a tough feat due to his smaller size. He was way more suited to being a swordsman than a smith, after all. The kindly man hugged his son and then watched him leave. Ken didn't hear the words the older man spoke as he walked away, but then again, he didn't need to. Ken walked away from Ken walked from the smithy to the single floor building that served as his home for as long as he could remember. The smithy had a simple fence cut from logs surrounding it. The identical houses of Alistair and Jason Tanner were set to the side of the path from the smithy to Ken's home. The positioning of the houses in a U shape had been a last line of defense when wild beasts had attacked. He liked that setup. It made the place feel like a smaller slice of the nearby village, and it always made him feel safe. He had to pass an apple tree on the way to the house, and a small grave marker that sat in the shade always drew his eye. He approached the house and opened the door to find that his slim mother was leaning over a pot. As he entered, she spun around to face him. Her honey gold eyes glowed in the dim light. Her hair was near the same shade of brown as his, though a little darker. Her cheeks were almost always rosy colored, even in the warmest weather, as they were now. Ken! She smiled at her only son. Good morning. Morning, Mum. He couldn't help but smile back. That smells good, he pointed to the pot. She chuckled. Yes, well, it will be ready soon if you hurry and wash up. Nami left for your secret place a while ago, so you might want to hurry. Ken shook his head. No hurry. She wants some solo practice with her bow this morning anyway. Well, that's fine. Still, wash up first. She walked over and kissed her son on the cheek. He nodded in reply and headed to the washroom. A minute later, he reemerged and headed into the room he shared with his sisters, 10-year-old twins. To his surprise, the girls were still sleeping. They would be free from their lessons for the summer now, but they usually were up with the sun. He smiled as one of the girls yawned and stretched. They were only this quiet when they were sleeping. He slipped off into the side of the room, curtained off for his use. He changed into his boiled leather tunic and pants that served for some basic protection. He attached his sword to his baldric and swung it over his shoulder. Ken felt ready to face the world. As he left the hut, he saw Nami's father and his master, Alistair, leaning against the fence near the entrance to the smithy. The man was looking over the woods. Ken paused a short distance so he would not disturb him. Hello, Ken, Alistair spoke without turning around. Beautiful morning, isn't it? Ken nodded and approached at the obvious invitation. It is, master. The older man laughed as he turned to look Ken in the eyes. Not heard you call me that in some time, boy. Ken grimaced at the name Master always called him when he used the man's title. Alistair had been Ken's master in the blade, and he addressed him as such when they trained. Well, we've been busy lately, repairing gear from the spring plantings and preparing tools for summer, not to mention the weapons for the market. There hasn't been much time for one-on-one training. Master pulled out 2 wooden training blades and tossed one to Ken, who caught it easily. No better time than the present, boy, his master grinned as he raised the wooden sword. Ken reached up and unbuckled his sword belt and set his real sword aside. You read my mind, my master. Ken charged, taking the weapon in both hands. Master smiled and sidestepped, bringing the blade around towards Ken's waist. That needs to be fixed. He laughed as he brought his sword in to block the blow and launched a counterattack at his teacher's left knee. Master had to jump away, a chuckle in his throat. They charged at each other, and their wooden blades locked together in the center as both tried to strike the other's chest. They stayed locked for a moment as they followed through the strokes before pushing away and gaining some distance. Not bad, still got some ways to go. Master set down his training blade and had Ken throw the other to him. So, still think I need the extra training? His master reached over and ruffled his hair. No, I think not, Ken. I've taught you as much as I can without real battle experience. You're ready for the next step. I cannot wait to see what kind of swordsman this coming summer makes you. Ken nodded as he moved his hand up to straighten out his hair. Thanks, Master. I'll put all that training you gave me to good use. Master laughed at this. You better. After all, for 8 years I've been taking you out into the woods for private one-on-one training every summer. I still remember the day you came up to me with a wooden sword you had Nami carve for you, asking for training. Ken chuckled at the memory. Yeah, I must have been crazy. Ryan tried to talk me out of it and said you were crazy strict, but I wouldn't be reasoned with. You put me through hell up there in the hills that first summer. I thought I was going to die several times. I thought I had overdone it a few times myself. But you're Heath's son. You're both as stubborn as mules when you have something in mind. You came home that autumn a better swordsman than any dove that passed basic training. You've only improved since then. Ken shook his head. Yeah, and I got a big head about it until you smacked me into the dirt. Showed me how much I had left to learn. His master's face turned serious. It's the teacher's job to correct the student, and let it not be said you never accepted correction. I'm proud of you, Ken. I'm glad my daughter chose you, but I thought of you as family long before that arrangement came about. Protect my little girl, but keep yourself safe too, hear me? Ken clasped his arms with Master, looking the older man straight in the eyes. I swear it. Good. Now get going. Lady knows Nami's waiting for you. All right, I'm going. See you at dinner, Master. Ken took off down the forest path, waving to his instructor as he went. His heartbeat was faster at the prospect of seeing Nami. He couldn't wait. And that is the end of chapter 1, Ken, A Morning Introduction. There was a few moments where I paused there. I may end up redoing this, but maybe not right this minute. But I'm definitely going to be fixing that one mistake that I noticed when I do the playback. If you enjoyed this, please give the video a like and a thumbs up. I'm sorry it's so rough. I'm learning. I'm hoping future chapters will be better. And this may get replaced with a better chapter in the future. But this is going to stand at the moment. So thank you very much, everyone. Have a great day. Goodbye.